We do know how long ago the Anshe Hashem began, of course, because we know when the second Adam came and when the nation of Seth began, but we don't know how long that was beforehand. Anyway, so Fastenab says that still the projections of the covenant of works is the problem, but let's explain more. So let's get back to where we were with regards to these two things. You've got the spectrum of the Noahide going from somebody who is a non-believer to somebody who keeps the 7 laws, but doesn't know about Judaism, and so somebody who keeps all the 7 laws and knows about Judaism, and then progressing all the way to a Jew on the other end of the spectrum. Likewise, we also have this federal situation where you have very loose federal government, and I'm talking about it in a purely state framework, and just to do with states, nothing to do with theology at all. This is just pure state framework. We have a loose federation of states like the European Union, where each country has its own sovereignty, to a very tight federation of states like China, where there is no sovereignty or autonomy in the independent states between them, or they're not really independent at all. And the Roman Empire is something like the United States and European Union in this sense, that you have countries, you have provinces of the Roman Empire, and those provinces have their own state law and their own autonomy under their own law, and Rome recognizes and permits them to have their own law. At the same time, Rome also imposes federal law upon the empire, which must be accepted by all of its member states, as if they had a choice. These countries under the Roman Empire had to capitulate. They had to submit to the Roman Empire in one way or another. And that is, at first, when Israel came into the Judea came into the Roman Federation, if you like, they were allies with Julius Caesar. But that alliance didn't last very long. Very soon, they entered as friends and left as oppressed people. That's how things happen when you enter into a federation. So they entered as friends, as allies with Julius Caesar, but very quickly they were being oppressed as a nation. But still, they were operating according to their own law. They were operating according to the system which they had in place under the Maccabees, which was a revival of the system in place before the Seleucids. And that system had been revived when Cyrus the Great Kurush allowed them to come back from exile, which was a revival of the state as it was before the Babylonian exile, which was a preservation of the state from the time of Joshua. Okay, so there is a continual sort of state law and state system being observed in the land, with a few interruptions, but gradually reviving itself and managing to preserve a way. The Roman Empire didn't do what the Seleucids did. They didn't try to completely Romanize everybody and abolish the law and impose one state Roman law, because that wasn't the way the Roman Empire worked. That was the way the Seleucids worked, but that was not the way the Roman Empire worked. So they just allowed the local state to sort out the troubles as long as they paid their taxes to Rome and had a statue of the emperor somewhere, or his face on the coins, his face on the shields, the Roman eagle somewhere. They were, to show that they were part of the Roman Empire, they were quite relaxed, and they allowed a lot of autonomy in their member states of the Roman Federation. All right, so this is the scenario we've got. Now, Paul is writing in that context, and he's writing to people across the Roman Empire who are not living in Judea. They are not living in the land of Israel. They're living in different parts of the Roman Empire. And these people living in different parts of the Roman Empire have an interest in the religion of Judea. They have an interest in this. There could be more than one reason why they have an interest in this. There could be 2 primary reasons I can think of. One, very simply, is that they are impoverished people in the states that they live. For example, he writes to the Romans, he writes to the Galatians. They may be the poor of Rome, the poor Galatians, and they know about the Jewish system, which allows for a ger toshav to be maintained by the Jewish state under Jewish law. And they think, well, that's a good idea. Maybe I can just sort of emigrate to the land of Israel, to the Holy Land, become a citizen of, as I'm a Roman citizen, I'll have a right to live there, just like in the European Union. Anybody who's a European citizen has a right to live anywhere in the European Union, but they won't be citizens of the country they move to. If they are from Ireland, for example, which is in the European Union, and they move to Bulgaria in the European Union, or 2 opposite ends of the European Union, the Irish citizen will not have all the rights of citizenship that the Bulgarian has. They won't be called Bulgarians. They won't have a Bulgarian passport. They won't have a Bulgarian ID card and various other things. But they will have a right to live there and work there, and they will be subject to the law of Bulgaria, but they won't be entitled to all of the laws of Bulgaria. So that's how it works. It might be the same in the United States too. They might have somebody who is a citizen of one state where, for example, various drugs are legalized. They might move to another state where drugs are illegal, and they have to observe the laws of the local area. They can't just bring their laws from their own state to the new state. They have to observe the state laws where they come, but they're still American citizens. That's how it was with the Roman Empire. You're still a Roman citizen, but your jurisdiction is a federal jurisdiction if you are not a local citizen as well, if you're not a local Judean. But these Galatians and Romans and other people that Paul is writing to may be people who are wanting to move to Judea and become naturalized as Judeans under the Roman Empire, so they can benefit from essentially from the benefit system, which is available only in Judea. This is very comparable to migrations across Europe, where people come from poorer countries in the European Union to countries where they have a strong benefit system in the European Union, and they want to become citizens of the new country so that they can ensure they will be looked after under the benefit system, because that is actually the system that was in place under Jewish law in Israel. So we're talking back in time, but we're talking about Israelis versus other members of the Roman Empire. And if you're an Israeli in Israel under the Roman Empire, then you're entitled to benefits, state benefits. And if you were not an Israeli under the Roman Empire in Israel, you were not entitled to state benefits. You were a Roman citizen. You had a right to live and work in Israel, but you had no right to the state benefits, which are only for the homeborn or for those Israelis who are recognized by Israeli law. So many of these Galatians and Romans and other Ephesians and people that Paul is writing to are people who know about this legal system and these state benefits which are available to them under essentially the socialist communist system of Israel, Judaism, which was actually in place under the Federation of Rome, which was absolutely a capitalist system. So you have, I'm laughing because Christians think that somehow Judaism and being a believer in the Bible means that you have to be a capitalist, which is absolutely meaning they are completely Romanist in their mentality, complete Rome. While in fact, the reality of the situation is you would have to be more of a socialist, communist even, to the point. But of course, communist with God-centered communism. Okay, that's how Israel was. So it's basically a God-centered communist state under the Roman Federation. And people in other parts of the Roman Empire sort of cottoned onto this fact and thought, well, look, we're completely impoverished here, but if we move to that state of the Roman Empire, we'll get benefits. We'll get, social security. That's going to be great. Let's go. What do we have to do? What do we have to do? So what they had to do, of course, is they had to convert to Judaism. Did they have to become Jews? No. But they did have to convert to Judaism. Well, there were different opinions, of course, going on in Israel, depending on which group of Jews you were going to appeal to be recognized as a citizen in that area. You had Sadducees, who did not have any of the Mishnah or any of the oral law. And you had Pharisees who had all of it. And then you had Zealots who really just were wanting to have independence from Rome. And the Zealots faction really didn't like these immigrants. They really didn't like the idea of immigrants coming along and taking the benefits from Israel. They hated being members of the Roman Union, of the Roman Federation. And the Zealots wanted to split off the state of Israel, the Holy Land, from the Roman Federation, so that they didn't have to have this problem of migrants coming in the whole time. And that Zealot faction was represented they were illegal, they were terrorists, okay? They were the terrorists, but they were represented in the Sanhedrin by a faction of Pharisees called Beit Shammai, the same school which passed Jesus over for execution. They put him on trial and found him guilty, and they passed him over for execution. It's just so interesting to see how the world today actually is a model of exactly what was going on in the first century. And it's every reason to believe that the Messiah is coming, because it's a complete, almost carbon copy of what was going on. Okay? And as the Zealot faction were fighting against Rome, and the Shammai faction were what can we say, the civilized face of the illegal terrorist Zealots, okay? If you want to imagine, in Islamic sort of sense, you have the ISIS terrorists who were the Zealots fighting against the world. And then you've got the polite face of Islam being people like Yasser Qadi, who are actually still promoting the same concepts and, behind the scenes maybe shaking hands with terrorists, but in public, definitely not. Very, very much trying to show that he's a member of the establishment and he's shouldn't be regarded as outside the establishment, but still trying to argue for them. I think you've got Anjem Chowdhury, who might be a leader of the Zealot faction, and Yasser Qadi, who is maybe a leader of the Shammai faction, if you think about it in that sort of way. There is a parallel. So you've got this zealot faction. They don't want any more immigrants. The Shammai faction, they also don't want any more immigrants. Okay, they want to stop that. They want to crack down on that. They don't want it to be easy for someone to convert to Judaism. Hence, when a convert comes to Shammai and says, "Convert me to Judaism while I'm standing on one leg," Shammai beats him away with his ruler. So usually it could be a physical rule, or it could be as in a ruler, or it could be a spiritual rule, meaning that we don't accept people like you, something like that. But he beats the applicant away. The same applicant goes to Hillel and says, "Convert me to Judaism while standing on." He says, what you do not like done unto yourself, do not do unto others. The rest is commentary. Go and study it. There, you're converted. So Hillel's approach was very easy to convert you. Shammai's approach was extremely difficult to convert you. Sadducees also were very strictly, what does the Old Testament say? That's how it's going to be. Be circumcised and keep all the law. That's the Sadducee way. So there's this context of people who are interested from across the Roman Empire of coming to be citizens of the state of the Jewish state under the Roman Federation, specifically in order to get the benefits, the social security, which is available to only in that state under Jewish law. And we have a very well preserved constitution of that state, which is called the Old Testament, specifically the Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses. Inside those 5 books of Moses, we have all of the laws of that state which were being implemented. And Rome accepted and allowed all of that. But we have different ways of approaching this. Now, the Pharisees have got their way of saying how to become Jewish. And the Pharisee approach is saying, look, don't be so concerned about things of this world. It's not so important. Much more important is that you have a Jewish soul, a Jewish spirit.